Welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is supposed to be an amazing match of Protoss versus Zerg. We're in game number 1 in the top left-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones. We have none other than Reynor and his opponent in the opposite corner with the red Protoss pieces. He goes by the name of ShoWTimE. This particular series was played at IEM Katowice. As a matter of fact, this was the very first best-of-3 that both players needed to play at the very beginning of the tournament. So this is played during the group stage as their very first match. Now, this was played in Group D, the Group of Death. Honestly, one of the craziest groups that I've seen in recent memory of StarCraft 2. I don't actually have the list in front of me, but if I'm not mistaken, it was Dark, Hero, Reynor, ShoWTimE, I think it was Cyan, and then I'm missing one more player. I guess I should go ahead and look it up real quick. Problem was that this is a 6-man group where only 3 players move on. Was it Maru who was also in this group? Yeah. So it was Maru, Dark, Hero, ShoWTimE, Reynor, and Cyan. Like, you know it's a crazy group when ShoWTimE is considered to be one of the weaker players, right? Like, ShoWTimE has been a top-tier contender for, well, many years now. Maybe he doesn't necessarily win tournaments very frequently, although he's done that in the past as well. But you know it's a crazy group when ShoWTimE is considered to be one of the quote-unquote easier opponents. So one of the, well, 4 of the 6 people in this particular group had potential to win the entire tournament. So Maru, Dark, Hero, and Reynor, all of those players, well, incredibly good at the game. Going into this particular series, Reynor had also mentioned to basically anybody who wanted to listen that he was practicing very hard, that he was taking it very serious, and that he did a very similar practice regimen as he did for Gamers 8, which took place in the summer of 2023. Now, that was one of the biggest tournaments ever, and he ended up winning the whole thing. So, Reynor, very high confidence. ShoWTimE, of course, always confidence, always very solid, but or always confident rather, but yeah, definitely not somebody I think a lot of people would necessarily expect to move on out of this group. So, with all of that being said, I heard that these games were amazing. As a matter of fact, we had so many good games going on the first days of the tournament, all at the same time, that on the main stream, we didn't actually see this series. This series was casted on the B stream. So, I don't know exactly what series we were covering at the same time, but probably was another game from Group D between any of those other top-tier players I just mentioned. So this is one of the games that I do know the outcome of, because, well, I was there. But also, at the same time, I don't know exactly what ended up happening. Stargate opener right here from ShoWTimE. I'm expecting this in every single game, mostly just because this is the go-to in pretty much every single Protoss versus Zerg. And ShoWTimE is, well, he's known as the Mauer, right? He's known as a very stock standard Protoss player, and ooh, beautiful control right there actually. Losing the Adept, the very first one, only getting a single Zergling worth is actually very tough. The problem is that usually the Adepts together with the Oracle, they will go hand in hand. So the Oracle will swoop into the natural, the Adepts they will shade into the third base, and they will work together. And with losing one of those Adepts, especially to slow Zerg, like that is a massive problem. Immediately, Zerglings are thinking about going on the offense. Link speed is going to finish up momentarily, and Reynor right now is thinking, did that one Adept really stay out on the map? Well, now he gets confirmation that indeed she did go home. Attacking right now with the Zerglings is nice as well, because this Oracle is probably going to have to turn around. Yep. So now he gets the attack confirmation over here. So this is massive. Oh my god. Terrible beginning right here for ShoWTimE. Maybe that's a little overly dramatic. Terrible is maybe a bit too strong of a word, but this is not the opening that you're hoping for as a Protoss player in this matchup. It's very easy for things to get out of control. The problem is that Reynor now gets to do whatever he likes for the next couple of minutes, and usually what Zerg players like to do is make a lot of drones. You can probably go straight up to 3-base saturation, completely uncontested. Although there will be some additional Adepts going across. Okay. Reynor did make some links on the back of this already. It's actually a bit of an uncommon follow-up here. I don't mind it, but after losing Adepts, it's a bit tricky to try and pull off additional Adept aggression, but it can still work out. Okay, well, a bit of a misrally right there on the links. Good little nuke over here on Oceanborn, where you can actually hide those units. Oracle swooping in, okay. 5 drones? Yeah. 5 drones for how many adepts? Now 5 adepts in total too. We did kill a bunch of Zerglings. Still not in love with that for our German player here. Blink together with +1 ground weapons on the back of this, so no charge shenanigans. A lot of Protosses lately in this matchup have been a big fan of going into the charge research instead and try to catch the opponent off guard, maybe take a quick 4th base as well. There are quite a few options available at this point in the game for Protoss, but ShoWTimE going for what we consider to be the most standard follow-up. So Adepts into Oracles, into Blink Stalkers. That is what Protoss players like to play any day of the week. 4th hatchery, building out front, and I would imagine that this is going to be +1 melee, although it could be missile as well. I think melee overall is a bit better. Usually with melee, we do seem to see the Evo chambers a little earlier actually than this. Yeah, it's gonna be missile instead, okay. Makes sense. Infestation pit right now on the back of this as well. +1 melee is really good to deal with those early game stalkers. I guess this is considered to be mid-game already. We can call them mid-game stalkers instead. Anyways, it is always nice to get those going, but how much damage is ShoWTimE really going to be able to deal with stalkers at this stage in the game, right? So the early game didn't really go his way. Creep spread hasn't really been slowed down very much. Ling is going to provide some vision here so those tumors can go across. Come on, little creep tumor. The Zergling has arrived. There you go. You always have to try. Worst case scenario, I guess, for the Protoss here is you dense on the perimeter of the creep. Kind of like Hellions, you know? You kind of just try to slow down the creep spread in whatever way possible. But already, Reynor's signature move, Zerglings going straight towards that 4th base and forcing the cancel at least on some of those structures, killing them as well. Okay. Zerglings here did pop into one of those stasis wards. The economy is quite nice, though, for ShoWTimE here. Storm coming up. Charge coming up. Additional gateways building. A robo facility. Okay. Now, what exactly is the unit composition that Reynor is currently favoring in the late game? He's gone for a Hydra Den right now. Fair enough. Can always go into Lurkers. For now, we're going to settle on a little drop alert. Mostly just roaches. What are we going to be using the Hive for here primarily? Could just be to go into the Zergling upgrades. That's always a good option. You can obviously go into Vipers as well right away without needing any additional tech. All of those units very, very handy. But yeah, this is so far a very ShoWTimE-esque game. So this is kind of an interesting follow-up. This is a very late, at least for a Queen drop, a very late Queen-based push. Reynor has got an awful lot of stuff, though, and I think he's looking... Oh, careful. Don't lose the Templar. Oh, God, that's a disaster. That is really bad right there for ShoWTimE. Losing those Templar that early on into the engagement is the last thing you want to have happen. Those units are pivotal. Clearly not expecting this push right here from Reynor. And it is a weird one, because normally this attack hits several minutes earlier than this. Reynor essentially decided to go for a lair tech push right as he finished Hive, which is not what we normally see. Now, the Queens are immediately going to start marching back home. I think just getting the snipes right there on the Templar may have already justified it. You don't want to really sit on too many roaches here in the later stages of the game either, so... I think going into Lurkers right now is not a bad choice. Give up on some of the roaches, replace them with Hydras and Lings instead, and then, well, fill out your army supply with Lurkers. So obviously you can warp in the Templar once again, but every single time the clocks get, they get reset, right? ShoWTimE is forced to wait until he has energy again before he can really achieve anything. Okay. Because of that, I think ShoWTimE's looking at this game, and he decides to immediately fire up the +1 air attacks. I think it's a good choice, mostly because this game is going nowhere for him so far. I don't think he's going to be able to achieve much with a ground-based push. And even though he does not have, quite the Stargate tech available yet, as he's trying to secure it right now, that is clearly the best direction right here for ShoWTimE, because none of his early game pressure has really achieved much, and none of his mid game aggression is gonna get too much done here either, it seems. Already though, Reynor once again trying to go for the attack here. This is a bit of a risky push, because obviously Protoss has been making a lot of stuff for a while. Yeah, I was gonna say, he can get a nice little concave going. Reynor trying to escape. A few Hydras coming in from the back. That's a funny set of Hydras. I think I could have actually tried to snipe some of the Templar there, but that attack certainly did not achieve that much. Stargate 2 and 3 right now coming up. Okay, this little roach counter though is amazing. Reynor also with it sees that the cyber core is spinning. And when you see that the cybernetics core is spinning, it has to be air upgrades. So the cyber core, it has the warp gate research and the armor for the air units as well as the attack for the air units. So that is a pretty clear giveaway. Oh no, more Templar! Ooh. Pretty clear giveaway that will be the transition. Man, that is an unfortunate amount of Templar going down to just really the lowest tier of Zerg units. ShoWTimE has still done a good job though, building up his economy. Reynor's attacks have been solid, but they have been quite costly as well. And it's not like his economy is that much better than the Protoss, right? As a matter of fact, they're both at the exact same worker count right now. ShoWTimE replacing some of those zealots right now. Some of that lost supply with a carrier. We can probably see another couple of them start up in just a moment. They are very expensive though. Push over here in the middle of the map as well. The only tech that Reynor doesn't really have here is a Sky Zerg transition. I feel like a transition here to, for example, a Spire would not be a bad choice. Instead, we're gonna just continue doubling down right here on the Roach Hydra, Ling Bane, Lurker aggression. It's a lot, but if ShoWTimE manages to stabilize and get his Sky Tools properly going, Hydras don't really cut it. Okay, now there's a Viper coming up. Vipers are good when it comes to abducting those lurkers, or those carriers rather, into the Hydralisk and into the lurkers, wherever they need to be. But ShoWTimE doing an excellent job playing defensively. I've actually seen a lot of games go horribly wrong from these positions that ShoWTimE is very comfortable with. Reynor really trying to punish the German player here, but not really getting it done so far. Okay. Demauer looking strong. Yep. You'll have to see it. And now suddenly those carriers are quite dangerous. There's the Spire coming up right here as well for Reynor, so he is going to be able to make that transition towards Corruptors here eventually. +2 air, about halfway done. ShoWTimE is so good when it comes to playing defensively, actually. Yeah, stats used to be the shield of ire. It used to be both stats and ShoWTimE that were very good at playing defensively. But these days, I mean, ShoWTimE is clearly, in my mind, the best defensive Protoss. Because nothing has really gone his way so far, but he still managed to get a banger of an economy. Now he's decided to collapse on top of this. Now, I don't love it. No, I was going to say, he just lost half of his troops there before that fight really started. Those lurkers getting some good value in. And ShoWTimE walked into the spines there. Not enough detection nearby. A lot of zealots get warped in, but zealots, when the lurkers line up and fire there, yeah, it's not ideal. Okay, even the queens have come to the front, by the way. Okay. Now the High Templar here are critical. We've seen a lot of them go down here, but they're critical for a couple of things. The most obvious one, of course, here is the Psionic Storm. Secondly, though, Feedback is a critical spell. Feedback, it outranges the Viper's abduction ability. So you really do need to make sure that your High Templar are properly positioned. I think it's only a 1 range difference. But if everything goes well, the Templar can certainly make sure that the Vipers are nullified. And obviously the same thing can be said as well for Infestors, which will usually be mixed in by the Zerg as well at some point. But if you're just wandering around here and the carriers get abducted one at a time, then obviously mostly comes down to Protoss not getting those feedbacks in quick enough. Nidus network here. I think a lurker run by into the main base would be fantastic, but there's one abduction going down. I think it was the Spore Crawler right there getting the final hit. Misrallied Immortal here. Yeah, it's so difficult. Once Zerg gets going in this matchup, so it wasn't even really that much, right? But the early game kind of slipped out of ShoWTimE's fingers. Once Zerg gets going in this matchup, they are incredibly oppressive. It's so hard to actually get a foothold back in the game. Because ShoWTimE has done a good job here in this game, just not dying, right? But that's really kind of what it feels like. Like, he obviously has a banger army here, but he has been with his back against the wall for such a long while now. And it can honestly be traced back all the way to that very first Adept that we saw going down against 4 slow Zerglings. Obviously, that may be a little bit far back, but at the very least, that's what kickstarted all of this. ShoWTimE doing a little bit of creep clearing. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. Nidus Worm in the main base gets denied right away. I've actually talked to a bunch of top-tier Protoss players and Zerg players alike, and somehow, some way, there seems to be an agreement right now at the highest level that PvZ is actually slightly Protoss favored, which is something I've not heard in a very long time. Yeah. Recall down south, trying to get those carriers back into the mix of things. Defend that base, and Reynor gonna attempt to do the same move in the exact same location once more. Yeah, it is interesting. I haven't heard about anything being Protoss favored in quite a while, but word on the StarCraft street has it that this matchup is currently very good for Protoss. Then again, though, don't see a lot of Protoss players winning against guys like, for example, Serral. But, you know, Serral may just be a bit of a statistical outlier in that regard. Boasting with his, like, 90% win rate against Protoss. It's kind of nuts. Anyways. Okay, there's the feedback. Lovely work. Yeah, and when the feedbacks when the feedback is landed, suddenly that fight goes so much better. Zerg is incredibly reliant on those spellcasters. And if you can shut them down, it really does make the Zerg late game 10 times weaker. There's only one Viper available right now. No Infestors whatsoever, so Reynor going for the full-on, well, just straight up units here, rather than relying on spellcasters. Yeah, I guess Reynor did beat Serral with Protoss on Raduset Station. That was in early December at Home Story Cup. That was actually a banger of a game. But that was also on a map that is considered to be incredibly good for Protoss against Zerg. One of the best PvZ maps that we've had in a long time. So you gotta take that result with a grain of, that result with a grain of salt, but it's, I think that's probably one of the last times that I've seen Serral lose against Protoss. And it happened to be from a Zerg player. Go figure. This little nuke over here. Ay, 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 ay. There's so much value here for the Zerg player. It's insane. Don't feed more units into that, man. Oh, we're gonna feed more? SimCity working against ShoWTimE there. Okay. We have another Nidus Worm, this time around to retreat because the carriers did come close. Oh. Alright. Well, apparently we're gonna write it up as dead. A couple of Brute Lords moving forward right now as well, and those Brute Lords are forcing out a Tempest transition. Corruptor's trying to swoop in, trying to get a couple of kills. How many carriers have gone down in this game? It's actually 6. I have caught a bunch of them on camera, but not every single one of them. There's a lot of action going on. Both players, whoa, playing exceptionally quick. Reynor at 660 average actions per minute throughout this game. You can do the math, chat. That is casual 11 actions a second? Ha! Yeah, just play faster. Just don't be slow. You want to get better at the game? Just play quicker. Oh my god. So far though, in this particular game, Reynor is running circles around ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE's defense has been good, but ultimately Reynor has had so many opportunities to be aggressive, and he is grabbing every opportunity with both hands. Lurkers and Brute Lords dismantling this entire bottom section of the map. It's funny because for the longest time in StarCraft 2's history, we never saw these two in the same game. Like, in a lot of Zerg players' minds for the longest time, the Corruptor, or sorry, the Lurker and the Brute Lord, they served the same role as like a sieged damage dealer, you know? But these days, they're actually quite common to be going alongside one another. ShoWTimE still has a very strong army. He still has a decent economy too. It's just that Reynor is really picking him apart. Don't count him out yet though, because this is still an army that can be very powerful, especially in a straight-up engagement. It's just that Reynor is not really giving him the straight-up engagement, right? Constantly backstabbing, constantly keeping ShoWTimE busy. I think ShoWTimE has had enough. Yeah, I think he is about ready to try and force the issue to the Zerg side of the map. He's ready to walk his entire army onto the creep, and the question is, does he have enough to just straight-up bulldoze this unit composition? There's a lot of Corruptors still, by the way. Yeah, we're talking 22 Corruptors, but only 2 Tempests, so there's not really even that many units that these Corruptors are good against right now. I wouldn't mind seeing Reynor, well, figure out a way. So we have probes going after that hatchery on the left. I wouldn't mind seeing Reynor figure out a way to make more Brute Lords here. Because those Corruptors are dead weight in a lot of engagements. Oh, Lurker swooping back in. Storm? Do we have any Storms? Hello? How many High Templar do we have? We have 5 Templar, but they're all the way in the back. Corruptors going on top of the entire Protoss army. That does mean that a lot of the Archons get good hits in, but the final Tempest did fall. Probes, by the way, also did not finish their job on the left side of the map. And ShoWTimE's supply count is dwindling. Reynor has been sitting at nearly 200 supply for, well, the last 10 minutes of this game. Just not giving his opponent any opportunity at all. Now apparently we've arrived in the main base with those Corruptors, and we're just gonna go after whatever is possible, huh? Yeah, Stargates, Nexi, everything will be a target for those Corruptors. To a man with a Corruptor, every structure is a nexus, as my grandma always says. It's beautiful. Yeah, ShoWTimE just busy taking out fires, right? Like he's running around, like he's like, fire, fire, and there's just fires everywhere, and he keeps going back and forth. But ultimately, while he's doing a good job putting out all the fires, at some point there's just no building anymore, right? Like at some point, okay, I should stop the analogies, but seriously, at some point there's just nothing available anymore to protect. So while ShoWTimE is very good playing a more passive game, and he's incredibly strong playing defensively, I think ultimately this game has just been a little bit too passive. We're sitting at 140 supply. He did keep this base alive, by the way, and he may be able to remax one more time. But if he manages to remax, I feel like Reynor is going to be sitting at a bank where he can easily remax himself as well. At which point ShoWTimE will probably be out of cash. Still though, he's still fighting. I mean, I can see this go decently well for ShoWTimE. It's just that he has to deal with Brute Lord Lurker. And that is a very scary anti-ground composition. Big Zergling run by once again, my god. Every time ShoWTimE like takes a deep breath to go for the engagement, there's a backstab, right? Like every single time. Now this is good. This is good right here for ShoWTimE. Catches the Brute Lord sleeping. Okay, gets a couple of them. But still though, there's so many Zerglings here. Archons going back home to try and take down these Lynx. They are the perfect target for it, but that now means that his army is entirely Archonless. Reynor trying to slow push, using his lurkers like you would siege tanks. Moving the ones in the back a little bit further forward. Templar, careful. Okay. Zerglings in the meantime, by the way, were cleared out. That means that the Archons can come back to the front. But suddenly Reynor has taken up position right here on the high ground. Our Italian Zerg is starting to tighten the noose. Although ShoWTimE does get a bit more counter damage done. Base in the bottom left, by the way, fully mining. We've had multiple opportunities, I think. Yeah, I was gonna say, for a hit squad to go in that direction. I think this is the right choice, because those Archons are never gonna go back up towards the high ground. Okay. ShoWTimE moving towards the left. There's no Zerg army here currently. Lings and Hydras can run on over in that direction, but they're not gonna be able to beat this unit. Nah, this unit composition is very scary. Ah, that is a lot of Lings, though. Fully upgraded Zerglings pack a punch, but that is tons of Archons. Don't bleed them out. Would have loved to see one High Templar here in the mix. That was... No, you needed to keep these units in one big bowl. Oh, no. When the surface area is as good as it is right there, the Zerglings actually do a decent enough job against those Archons. In the meantime, the Protoss base over here on the right side of the map is gone. And it looks like ShoWTimE's army may just about to be cornered over there in the top section of the map as well. Drones running away. The base does indeed stay alive. Oh, ooh, miss rally over there. Good feedback by ShoWTimE. Still a lot of supply caught up in these Corruptors as well, and they don't really contribute to the fight very much. It is just that I think ShoWTimE doesn't have enough units. Yeah. There have been many opportunities, though. Momentum has been in favor here of Reynor the entire game long. But ShoWTimE is doing an excellent job. Okay, here we go. Blinking forward, charging in. Archon's getting a good bit of damage done as well. Love that, though. Corruptors right there, they don't have a lot of targets that they can hit anymore, but one of the targets they did kill in that engagement was the Observer. So Reynor's lurkers are currently undetectable. And it's a lot of Corruptors to have just one little job like that, but they did manage to accomplish it. Hydra's moving forward once again. Man, Reynor's actually, like, he's not rich here. This is a 135 supply right here for the Zerg. Oh, there's no detection. Observer is coming in. He sieges up way away. I love that. Obviously, there needs to be detection as well for Reynor to actually be able to snipe the Observer. Hydra Lurker, though, still moving forward over here. Third Nexus of the Protoss right now is gone. Corruptors are starting to use their Caustic Spray ability to take down another Nexus. Good storm over there. Okay. ShoWTimE is scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. He doesn't have a lot remaining, but I feel like he has had... It feels to me like he's been on the back foot ever since, like, minute 2. And we're 27 minutes in, and he could have almost won this. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Heartland. I've fast forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game because nothing happened. Let's see if ShoWTimE can get the momentum to go in his favor, though, right? I think he's very strong playing from behind, playing from the back foot, but it'd be nice if you aren't in that position in the first place, right? So I brought it up. I mean, losing the first Adept obviously wasn't the end of the world, right? Like, that wasn't the reason why ShoWTimE ended up, you know, being behind in the game. But it was the beginning of the momentum swinging in favor of Reynor. And you can really feel the momentum in a game like that previous one. Not a lot of things have to go differently for that momentum to be in favor of the Protoss player instead. So maybe ShoWTimE can get it done over here. Don't lose the first Adept. Don't lose the second Adept either. Don't lose any of the Oracles. There's a lot of things that have to go right for Protoss to feel comfortable. And that is what makes these matchups so unforgiving. Honestly, it's the same for Protoss versus Terran too. Like, if you play a clean early game, you micro against a Widowmine drop, right? You don't really lose anything against a Raven or whatever, right? Like, you do a decent job. The mid game feels really good. But when anything goes wrong early on, the comeback potential for Protoss feels pretty tough. I think if we are gonna make any balance adjustments, it should probably be to make that early game a little bit more stable. Anyways, one Adept this time around for 2 Zerglings and 3 drones. I like that way better than what we saw earlier. Zerglings once again going in for the counterattack. The Adept is gonna need a little escort home. Yeah. There's a flying magician, though, up in the air. I've heard some people say that they should improve the Protoss early game stability by bringing back the mothership core. To clarify, that is not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm not a fan of mothership core. Nah, I think a mothership core is one of the grossest units we've ever had in SC2. Not a fan of that at all. I'm not sure exactly what the right answer is, but if we are gonna give any buffs to Protoss, I would like it to be a little bit easier for them to not instantly lose the game if they lose one Oracle or one Adept or take like 5 probe losses to a Widowmine drop or something like that, you know? But I've yet to hear like an elegant solution that would solve those sorts of issues. Anyways, I guess one of the problems too is that like, yeah, you may lose an Oracle, but it's not gonna lose you the game in the next 3 minutes, you know? You're gonna lose the game in like 15 minutes. So you're like, it's kind of like playing Dota, right? Like you may lose the early game, but you still have to sit there and like be in pain for the next 20 minutes. It's kind of rough. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that is the hardest part about playing Protoss overall. Okay. These Adepts, standing shoulder to shoulder. I actually agreed with ShoWTimE right there. Just standing still, taking that fight. It looked like it was gonna go quite well for him, but ultimately the Zerglings actually did much better than I thought. In the past, one of the things that we had was that the shield battery would spawn with more energy when it was done. So this actually got nerfed at some point. Honestly, Protoss players kind of did this to themselves, okay? Basically, what ended up happening is that we had them being used offensively. Which was kind of rough. Remember the good old, I'm gonna build Void Rays over here and then go into Tempest while I have shield batteries on the low ground. Just healing everything back up to... Those were fun games. But that enjoyment was also mostly on the side of the Protoss, and after like, you know, a couple weeks of that, people were like, okay, now, this is a bit lame. It's a delicate dance. It is not easy to do. Anyways, I like this beginning here a lot better for ShoWTimE. Yeah, he did lose a bunch of units, but he also killed a bunch of stuff, right? It's still not really an early game you want to write home about. But you can see that the creep spread has been contained a lot more. Ooh, getting the kill on this hatchery would be massive. I shouldn't get it. A lot of Zerglings are being made. Stasis ward there. Lovely work right there by Reynor. Oh no. Oh no. Well, this is a problem. Yep. The good old reversal right there. What could have been amazing for ShoWTimE's momentum if he would have killed this hatchery ends up being a nice little lead right here for Reynor. Reynor this time around going into a Spire. So, no quick hive, no queen drop, no quick lurkers, none of that. Instead, I think we're gonna go into mass muta here. Now, we'll have to see if it's mass muta. It could be like 8 to 12 mutas or so, which is what a lot of Zerg players like to do. Maybe I've seen a few too many of Dark's games, where I see a Spire and I immediately think it's mass mutalisk. Because Dark is a big fan of just bumping out the +1 air weapons and just making loads and loads of the bad boys. I think it's a good choice, but certainly a little risky against very strong defensive players. Yeah, back during the proxy Void Ray, proxy Tempest meta. That is the last time I hit Master 1 with Protoss. I haven't really played a lot of Protoss since. But I did really enjoy, like, as much as I dislike playing against certain cheeses, and I think the proxy Void Ray stuff was something horrible to play against, I also really enjoyed playing it. It was so much fun. It felt so good. You get up to, I think it's 5 Tempest, and you just kind of one-shot everything. Oh, it was so nice. Like, I could never win Protoss versus Terran properly, and then that cheese popped up. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, it was one of those builds that required about 4 dozen things to go right for Terran to defend against it. I actually wondered for a little bit with the Cyclone rework whether or not that build was going to make a comeback, because you really did need Cyclones. A lot of players would rush out the Cyclone upgrade in order to specifically defend against that push as well. Anyways. Double Lurker then? Ooh. Reynor going double Lurker Den. Now, why would you go 2? The main reason is that you can obviously make both upgrades at the same time. But it's also very expensive. He's building them side by side though, so I'm inclined to imagine it is on purpose. Then again, they are mistimed a little bit, so maybe that's as to why he decided to just make 2, because he wants to get the upgrades ASAP. We did, by the way, have the Spire. Spire was finished, but he never committed to it. So he must have had, yeah, something right there in that Protoss army that set him off to not commit to it. ShoWTimE did scout it. So maybe he just anticipated ShoWTimE going back into, like, say, Phoenix production. ShoWTimE made 1 Phoenix. That was it. I think that's overall, though, a positive exchange right there for the Protoss. There's the double Stargate again. I wanted to say Skytools and Stargate at the same time. This is Scargate. +1 air weapons. Fleet beacon on the back of it as well. These are the type of games, though, where I think you could probably cover up the nicknames of both players, and I would be able to guess who's who. Like, this is very clearly a ShoWTimE game. I'm trying to decide if I could pick out that this is Reynor. Reynor has reinvented his playstyle a bunch of times throughout his career. But there's a bunch of key characteristics, like, for example, this, that I do feel like make it quite obvious sometimes. Not really achieving too much over here, though. Yeah, nobody really plays like ShoWTimE. None of the other Protoss players really play like this. If you look at like maybe MaxSpecs. MaxSpecs kind of plays like this too, actually, in this matchup lately. MaxSpecs used to be a lot more active, but also reinventing his playstyle, that is, to be a bit more passive. I could maybe confuse this as well for MaxSpecs' playstyle, yeah. Then again, MaxSpecs complains that his PvZ is not very good. Even though, you know, statistically he's the highest ranked Protoss in the world right now, so Pro gamers' words and actions are oftentimes not in alignment. That is one thing I've learned very early. Oh man, my matchup is so bad. Proceeds to destroy everybody. That's a bit of a classic. Oh no, I just got lucky. Alright then. My god. My god! Woo! When the Immortals start firing... No, run away, lads. Run away, those are Zerglings. You do not want to have any business with them. The Roaches, however... That's okay. Okay. Yeah, pro gamers tend to be very critical of their own performance. Which makes sense, right? But still. When you hear the number 3 in the world complaining that they're bad at the game... It does put things in perspective a little bit. Ooh, Zerglings did manage to sneak in right now. Push over here at the front. Does get deflected. We're gonna need to see a bit of a warp in. Now we're getting to that awkward moment that you also run into as a Protoss player when you're not prepared in the wall-off. Where you're maxed out and you can't warp in reinforcements. Like right now, ShoWTimE has some supply available again, but that's after he lost a whole lot of probes. Ay. These are only +1 Zerglings, by the way. They do have adrenal glands. Anyways, big push over here towards the other side of the map. I could look at that Zergling for ages, but... Reynor, forced to defend right now at home, decides to give up on the low ground entirely. That is the low ground where the Hydralisk Den was located. And of course a base too, but he evacuated the drone zone away very rapidly. Double Nidus Worm? Double Lurker Den. Yeah, you know what's better than 1 Nidus Worm? 2 Nidus Worms. You know what, in the previous game, the only reason why ShoWTimE deflected the Nidus Worms a bunch of times is because he warped in just enough units. You're gonna have to respect this, yeah. Even 2 carriers and a zealot cannot apparently stop the Nidus Worms from building. Not really committing to anything there, but... Niduses. Nidai. Something like that. Couple different ways of pronouncing it, I'm sure, yeah. It's funny too, because I feel like Heroes Protoss versus Zerg is very strong. When he doesn't all army hotkey the units out of the wall, like ShoWTimE is trying to do over here too. I love this move from Reynor. Oh, he doesn't actually do it this time around, okay. We have a push over here. I'll explain in just a second. Okay, we get a bunch of damage done over here, but it looks like Protoss is going to be able to deflect both sides. One thing I've seen Reynor do with changelings in the past is send in a changeling and then hold position the changeling in the wall of. So what happens, obviously, Protoss players will not play this game and stare at their natural, right? They will look around and they will just sort of glance at their base and their wall of every once in a while. I have seen Reynor in particular put those changelings on hold position. Pretend that they're a real zealot. I'm a real zealot. It's kind of like Pinocchio. Anyways, push over here at the front. Base in the middle of the map does end up going down. Archons and Stalkers doing a decent job right there against those Corruptors. 6 of them have fallen, but 1 carrier also went down. Nice movement here, though, by ShoWTimE. Yeah. His economy is still, yeah, decent. He did lose a lot of probes, though. He actually lost more workers this game than I realized. Yeah, it's only 33. He never really made that many in the first place, I guess. It is important to replace them, because this is not an army that can just win the game. But you blink twice and ShoWTimE is back up to nearly 200 supply. I can imagine getting practice against this style of Protoss is also kind of tough, though. Because, like, nobody really plays like this. A lot of Protoss players are just hyper-aggressive with all-ins, and I respect this style a lot. The way that Protoss, or that ShoWTimE plays Protoss is really impressive. A lot of Protoss players feel the need that they can only ever win by playing aggressive and by going for 2, maybe 3 base all-ins. That is not what ShoWTimE does at all. Honorable macro Protoss. Yeah, if you look it up in the Urban Dictionary, I want the word ShoWTimE to appear. Carriers decided to recall. Nidus Wormdo being set up all over the map. I love it. This Nidus is mostly just here so lurkers can appear if a large group of zealots go in that direction. Well, these are not zealots. That is a big chunk of very expensive Protoss units moving on over towards the top right. Lurker's not in position for this. Can you scoot in and kill the base? In the meantime, immediately, of course, aggression again on the other side of the map, because this is Reynor we're talking about. Gotta use those 11 buttons a second somewhere. Imagine only fighting in one area. Imagine that, huh? Obviously, the APM is a little deceptive, right? Because repeat rates and repeat delays and all the rest of it. I've mentioned it many times, but Zerg players generally have some inflated APM. Probably about 30%. Reynor's still very fast, though. ShoWTimE also actually very quick here. 435 APM. That is mostly all real APM, although Protoss players do use rapid fire as well for like warp-ins and all the rest of that too, but not as much as Zerg players tend to do. Love the stasis wards still being set up, man. So that must be the stasis wards set up by the oracles that were produced at like minute 4, right? Like these are the same oracles. You see how important they are though? Because those links, they could have done a lot more damage. I mean, they're still dealing a lot of damage, but they could have done even more damage if those oracles were dead in the early game. All right, rather than fighting in the top right, ShoWTimE just carves a path straight through the middle of the map. This is dangerous though, because he might find himself flanked between a whole load of lurkers, and that's exactly what ends up happening. Still though, does he have enough right here to just stand and fight? Reinforcing Zerg units are showing up. Couple of lurkers right there in the stasis ward, but ultimately, that entire Protoss ground army ends up getting demolished. Reynor grabs the opportunity with both hands. ShoWTimE does have money to reinforce. He's not really reinforcing, yeah, super rapidly here, but he's just rebuilding whatever he can. It's very tempting at this point to just warp in a ton of gateway units and call it a day and remax as quickly as possible. He's taking his time, goes back into Immortal production, adds on additional carriers, believes in his abilities here to just, yeah, defend using his units that he's currently got. Reynor's economy, by the way, is pretty terrible here. Yeah, he's got lots of bases, but no drones. Only 55 workers in total. Really nothing amazing. That group of units also stuck in stasis. Dude, the stasis wards have been absolute MVPs. Okay. Moving forward. Reynor trying to see if he can potentially create a chokehold over here. That Nidus Worm still very handy. I love this. Yeah, this is what we missed in the previous game. One Templar in those runway groups makes a massive difference. Now just Zerglings alone are not going to be able to cut it. Another stasis ward gets set off. Alright. ShoWTimE actually kills the base. He gives the base away though, mostly because he has additional mineral fields to mine. In the meantime, big fight over here. Careful now. You don't want to charge in. Okay, carriers. Sending out their interceptor ships, but many of them have already fallen. Only 20 remain. Yeah, ShoWTimE can't really fight all of those Corruptors and Hydras. So he decides to go for the counter instead, giving his carriers a bit of time to remake those interceptors. That hit squad of units still going to town. Reynor decides to go and take the base race. So he's got loads of units here available, and he's gonna try and see if he can destroy all of his opponent's structures before the same thing can happen to him. So the win condition in a game of StarCraft 2 is to destroy all of your opponent's structures, and that's exactly what we have going on right now. Obviously, Protoss can recall at any given time. Zerg is very mobile. Reynor already making another base in the bottom left, so I don't think the game will be decided by it. But the question is, who is going to disengage first? Will we see a recall? Is ShoWTimE just gonna give up those bases? Is he gonna recall his entire army, or is he recalling part of it? Those are all very difficult decisions to make, because if you recall half your forces, sure, you can use the other half to clean up the leftover structures, but you may also just find yourself against the entire Zerg ball. So much damage being done all over the map. ShoWTimE, though, still with a 50 supply lead at this point in time. That Nexus will fall. This Nexus is gonna be next. Nexus. Sorry. And then there's a base over here. This one is currently untouched. So I think ShoWTimE is looking at this right now. Look at the minimap. Everything's on fire. Reynor has seen that base. He does know about it. I think this is all excellent movement here by ShoWTimE. Really well done. That was a difficult decision for him to make, though. Leaving only a few zealots behind. Reynor is basically broke. Does he have enough, though, ShoWTimE that is, to kill all of these units? There are Templar available. I was gonna say, opening up a path here, killing and targeting all of those lurkers to try and make sure that the rest of the Protoss army can engage is really, really nice. There's still 3 observers remaining. Those observers are critical. A little bit of a hit squad over here as well. Those Corruptors once again going in. Reynor's army supply is dwindling, however. Storm is gonna try and keep this base alive, and he will keep the Nexus alive. 60 hit points. The shields will regenerate. Calm and collected, man. Yeah. ShoWTimE. Not really ever scared. I think ShoWTimE, while playing these games, has a steady heartbeat of like... He's very athletic, right? Probably like 62. That's ShoWTimE's heart rate peaking. Everybody else is in a full panic mode right now, but ShoWTimE always seems to have this like... very stoic... Like, when you look at him play, he's got this perfect posture. He always looks very relaxed. Okay. Big Zergling, yeah, group over here trying to go after all of these things. Problem is, ShoWTimE right now must realize where those final structures are. We've got one hatchery and a dream. That's it. If this hatchery falls, that's the end of the game for Reynor. Obviously, yeah, now there's a spawning pool building too. ShoWTimE doesn't know that, right? So you only get a revelation message. You can only see all of your opponent's units on the minimap when you kill all of their main structures. And killing, well, their main structures may be an opportunity right now. Reynor does not want to jump the Nexus, but I think he could have. In the meantime, though, over on the left side of the map, the Templar setting themselves up for a bit of a flank. You gotta be careful. There's still a lot of Zerglings out. There is enough money, however, available for ShoWTimE to rebuild the interceptor ships. Oh, big storms, massive storms. One carrier does fall. ShoWTimE has not been able to remake any army here in quite a while because he's been supply blocked. But obviously he can still spend his minerals here on interceptors. Those do not cost supply. 15 minerals each. One changeling here. Sees exactly what's going on. Okay. Trying to retake a base over here. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Cancel on that. ShoWTimE doesn't know whether or not there's any mining bases up north, but he's making the assumption that there will not be any. He's making the assumption that Reynor is fully cornered. He's looking around the map. Yeah, he's got a zealot patrolling all of those locations. Same for a probe as well. So he is double checking right now. Spore crawlers coming up. There's no counter right now though for Reynor against these carriers. Like, all he can hope for here is that the Protoss player overextends. Ideally, you really want to have a Viper or two. But there are none of those available. Reynor's going to have to tech all the way up towards the Hive again if he wants to give that a try. So ShoWTimE playing this calm and collected once again. He realizes, yo, if you only have one base, which he should have confirmation of right now, this base being the scary one, I guess, because it has a lot of money still remaining. Same for the base in the middle. If it is one base Zerg, if I now have, well, a third nexus going up, natural is just about, well, natural. Second base is just about to finish. This should be okay. Yeah, just keep macroing. So after playing a macro game, we did a full-on base race, and now we're back to playing the macro game. And this can only result, really, in a Protoss win. Reynor's win condition right now is that Protoss overextends. And that is rarely something we will see ShoWTimE do. Queen taking a lot of damage. Hydra's taking a lot of damage. We're target firing down whatever is possible here. GG is gold. ShoWTimE wins game number 2. Our final game for today, it takes place on the map site Delta. Alrighty. This series has been on a razor's edge. Good decision making by ShoWTimE, outpacing Reynor there in game number 2. Game number 1, however, Reynor managed to get a solid foothold in game number 1, and or in the game, and he just never let go of it, right? Like, he just kept hitting ShoWTimE in the face. And it took a long time for ShoWTimE to ultimately fall over, but he did. Now, what do we do right here in the third game of the series? I don't think ShoWTimE is gonna mix it up at all. I think ShoWTimE will be more than down to just play the exact same game again. Does Reynor decide to make any changes, though? Because he did go for that Spire in the previous match, but he never really made use of it. Or at least not, you know, to make, like, quick mutas or something like that. Which may have been the original plan. There are a bunch of all-ins, of course, that you can go for as both Zerg as well as Protoss. I wouldn't mind seeing them. It's just that I don't think ShoWTimE is really going to make the decision, as we do have one Adept going down. Or, sorry. Well, maybe we'll have an Adept going down too in a moment. I meant the drone. 3 drones right here. 3 drones for 2 Adepts is not worth. Okay. Not quite the start that you would like to see. Apparently the probe also has fallen. So this is one of those starts where, yeah, you gotta be careful here as the Protoss player, because suddenly the Oracle has to stay at home to protect the third base, and suddenly you find yourself in a situation where Zerg gets to do whatever you like. Let's see. Yeah. Oracle not respecting it. Very cheeky move right here by Reynor. Purposefully shows one Zergling to force the Oracle to go across the map. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's now going to commit. Yeah. So guess what happens now? Either the second Oracle is going to have to defend, or we're going to have to fly this first one all the way back home. At the very least, that was so nicely timed right there. I want to assume here that that was on purpose by Reynor. Reynor commits right there with that little Zergling squad as soon as the Oracle micro was supposed to happen. And now that first Oracle is entirely deflected by a very small group of Zerglings, despite the fact that it still flew across the map. Lovely little move. Now the Lings run into the base, kill a probe. Ay, ay, ay. This is going from bad to worse. Believe it or not, pro gamers only play with one monitor. They can only look at one thing at once. I know this is a commonly misunderstood concept. Sometimes I even get the feeling that professional gamers are also human, but the jury's still not out on that one. Alpha Star would have microed that better, though. Alpha Star would have managed the Oracle and the base defense. Alright, well, here we go again. Ultimately, we do get into a very similar spot once again. Oracle's flying around. Adepts are ready to shade in. It's a good amount of adepts. The question is, do you want to commit? Apparently we're gonna settle for just denying the 4th base for now. 4th base instead will be made up north. This is giving the Zerg a lot of time though, and apparently Reynor's looking at this, he's like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I don't know if he is though. I was gonna say, he's been droning for a little while already. Does he have enough lings here to properly clean this up? I think it should be okay. Ooh. A little bit of skating right there on some of these units. I think he did need to make extra links. Yep. Ultimately though, I guess losing those drones when you're over making drones is also not really the end of the world. Would have been lovely if this was alongside the Oracle swooping into, I don't know, for example, the 3rd base, but... 9 workers killed. 12 in total for 8 adepts and 4 probes. I would say this is probably the most even game that we've had so far. Game number 1. Favor for Zerg. Game number 2, small favor for Protoss. I think this is a relatively even game right now, with both players making some errors. Okay, so how does that play out? It is a quick +1 melee this time around for Reynor, who's now also going into the Hydralisk Den. So even though this is an important match for the both of them, because this is from a $500,000 StarCraft 2 tournament, Reynor's decided to skip the Roach Warren. We're going straight Hydra Ling. Now we're going Roach Warren, but that is a pretty late one. This is probably just the, in case I really need it, Roach Warren instead of, you know, I'm gonna make roaches and actually use them for base defense Roach Warren. Those are different Roach Warrens, okay? They're both called Roach Warrens. They look identical, they cost just as much, but they're entirely different. At least that's the way it feels. Charge coming up once again. After the blink upgrade. And we've got ourselves the Psionic Storm researching once more. Okay. Don't love that. Don't love that at all. Nope. Four drones for an Oracle. They're all traits that you can't be too happy about, but you also can't get too sad about it, you know? It's just one of those things where, yeah, you kind of hope for a little bit more as the Protoss player. You hope for a little bit less as the Zerg. Okay, gets another one. Hive, though, finishing up. There's the Banelingness coming up. Double upgrades here as well for Reynor. He's going into Carapace here together with Melee, so Ultras are certainly an option. Yep. There's the Ultralisk Cavern. Adrenal Glands now coming up as well. Spore Crawler and a Swine Crawler on the left side of the map. That is mostly to deal with like a Dark Templar or Zealot push. Buying a bunch of time is massive. Okay. ShoWTimE is probably gonna expand towards the 6 o'clock position next. So that is why Reynor is he's setting up shop over here to try and shut this down. As soon as it begins... Spire, by the way, once again coming. Bunch of gateways here being set up as well in case there's like a Bingling roll by or something along those lines. And obviously it helps against Zerglings too. So ShoWTimE playing this cautiously, at least until the rocks are down. Yeah, ShoWTimE not rushing out a 5th base. I think that's the right call. Using these units for scouting. He did see the Ultralisk Cavern, so that's really lovely. Getting the vision of that is massive. But now the Ultras are coming. Ooh, Dropper Lords. Okay, I was gonna say, we're not really achieving too much here. Reynor clearly wants to try and create some chaos. ShoWTimE slowly expanding, but not really rushing anything out. This is one way to create chaos, yeah. One way to make sure that the Ultralisks do a lot more damage as well is by using the Neural Parasite here. So Neural Parasite on the Immortals to fight the other Immortals with, and then the Ultras can plow through everything else. Great strategy. Now the 5th base starts up. Zerglings, okay. There's not enough room in the plane for everybody, but that's still going to be a 32 ling drop. Banelings as well on the right side of the map. The SimCity is good. Love that stasis ward. Look at that. There's no entrance into this mineral line other than this stasis ward. So I think that should be working out quite well. Still though, 5th base is going to fall. Cancel on that one. Zerglings are flying on over towards the main base. Chitinous plating for the Ultralisk is done. No Baneling drop. It's just going to be Zerglings. They do have Adrenal Glands, but they're dropping into... Yeah, I don't love this drop, but it's still going to clean it up. Banelings? Some of them still managed to sneak through the cracks. A little bit of a lucky RNG right there for Reynor, because that could have easily blocked his entire Baneling clump, but he still managed to clean that entire mineral line up. No units there available. That clump of Ling Ultra Roach ended up distracting the entire Protoss army. And the entire Protoss army decided to go and hang out over at the base at the 6 o'clock. Now the Ultras are on the right side of the map. Ling's moving on over towards the left. There's one probe available here. Ultras, though, getting so much work done. ShoWTimE's defense falling apart a little bit here. No critical damage. Nothing really in a position here where he's in an awful spot. But this is not really the type of game you want to play. You don't really want to be a Zerg punching bag. In the meantime, Reynor did expand towards 2 more locations, but he doesn't even have the worker count to saturate all of that properly. No. 87 drones is respectable, though. Do we have any infestors? We do have 4 infestors, and they do have neuroparasite, plus they have enough energy. So we're going to have to keep an eye out on them. Ultra still dancing over here at the bottom of the map. I think ShoWTimE is satisfied as long as he can get a 5th base going. Now he split up his units. So this is what he should have done a little bit ago. There's the fleet beacon. There's the 2 stargates. There's 2 dead roaches. Maybe 3 even. I don't know. 1 Brute Lord. In combination with the 5 we already have. Fair. They're going to be pretty amazing against these Zealot Stalker run-bys. Push over here in the bottom left-hand corner as well. Trying to get a little bit of work done. I think the Zerg should be okay, though, against this sort of thing. Yeah. A respectable amount of drone kills, plus the Queen. Okay. Tempest transition is well underway. I think it's Tempest this time around. Actually, hold that thought, because we do have a lot of Zerglings here surrounding some very expensive Protoss units. Storm a little late. Looks like the hatchery will fall. Mama ship coming up as well. It's the first mothership, actually, in 2 long games of PvZ already. And apparently now we're gonna go into the 3rd one, and this time around the mothership will be produced. Not exactly sure what the difference is. I always like the mothership. Even if it's just like a secondary recall opportunity, I think it's very strong. Because the mass recall and the recall of the mothership do not share a cooldown. So you can recall once towards the left side of the map and then use the Nexus on the right side of the map to recall in that direction. There's quite a few opportunities there where it's very powerful. Alright, here come the Queens. Reynor's attack timings are always, like, his unit compositions that he uses in these attacks, they always look so crazy to me, because this is a weird combination of units, but it's also really strong. He always seems to have the right units for the right job. Mama's just about to spawn. Mama! There she is. Well, in like 10 seconds. You can chrono all you want, but that unit still takes about 7.5 years to produce. There she goes. Love this, by the way. Double cybernetics core, double chrono boost. There are 8 infestors available right now. ShoWTimE needs to be careful that not the entirety of his army temporarily switches sides. They're actually underneath over here. Couple of spore crawlers coming up. ShoWTimE thinking about making a move a little further forward and potentially taking that base, I assume, but that's going to be a tough one to acquire. Okay. Do we have detection here? Because if ShoWTimE does not have detection... Okay, I love that, yeah. Oracle super critical. That revelation skill is also detection, of course. He needs to make sure that he sees those infestors. If the infestors can move forward and just neural stuff, it's the last thing you want to have happen. Reynor, though, preparing for another counterattack here. Mama is sitting over here at the bottom of the bases. Push over here. Okay. Having one of the Archons temporarily switch. Oh my god, switch sides. That's a brutal look. Cloak gets activated on the base. 10 probes have gone down. Beautiful series so far, by the way. Like, as a fan of StarCraft. As a fan of macro Protoss. This is very nice. It's just that so frequently we see this go horribly wrong. It takes one engagement, and Zerg can be at an overwhelming advantage. Okay, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. These are beautiful engagements for the Zerg player. So those Immortals were produced to counter the Ultralisks, because they're really the only proper unit here that's good against Ultras. Like, even carriers aren't that great. And when you have the Neuroparasite, force those units to change. It's just, yeah, it makes it so difficult for the Protoss player to move in. Although he had a lot more Immortals, and a bunch of the Ultras did fall. 4 Ultralisks have gone down so far in this game. The pushover on the right side, though, has been deflected for the most part. Tempest count is looking pretty healthy. We have 6 of them. That is enough to one-shot brutes. Don't fly the Spore Crawler. Okay, good. Moving onwards once again. Lovely movement. Yes. Lynx trying to go in for the counterattack. Lots of static defense at the 6 o'clock. Plenty of army here available too. ShoWTimE, by the way, not a fan of like these mass... Did we lose it? No, we didn't lose anything. He's not a big fan of those like mass zealot run-bys that we see guys like, for example, MaxPax focus on a lot, right? A lot of the European Protoss players are fans of 10 zealots going across the map and just murdering as much as possible. ShoWTimE seems to rarely do that. Like, we see a small group of them, but not really that many. Okay, +3, +2. A little bit of an Immortal mating dance over here in the natural. This is where baby Immortals come from. Isn't it great? Anyways, Neuroparasites once again being used over here, but good feedbacks as well. Good moves right there by ShoWTimE. Rather than trying to desperately disengage, he decides to actually commit and double down there, and that, well, gives him the win in that fight, plus the kill on the base. 7 drones end up going down. Missed rally the Immortals, or Ultralisks. Okay, they do come in. Careful with the Mama ship, though. I think we should recall. I believe this is what we call in the business a -300, -300. Push over here on the right side of the map as well. Oh, that stasis ward, blocking the pathing of the Ultralisks. Brute Lords moving forward in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Trying their very best. Careful, though. Yeah, I was gonna say, without backup, Stalkers alone are gonna be able to make short work of that. Tempest still stuck on the right side of the map, not really doing that much useful. Okay, they're gonna be recalled right now instead. Love that idea because he's gonna need all of his units in one big place. We do have some good abductions here once again. Tempest, though, still dealing quite a bit of damage. Nice feedback there, too. Blinks forward, tries to go after as many of those Brute Lords as possible. Archons and Immortals here busy fighting Ultras, but they probably could have backed up a little bit more. Fight on the left will be won here eventually by our Protoss player. Looks like the fight on the right, though, was pretty good for the Zerg. Ooh, careful now, Mr. Ultralisk. Not bad. Ultimately, though, with the quick remax, yeah, Reynor is going to be able to get the army size advantage once again. Both players taking a lot of losses. And ultimately, ShoWTimE did take another base. He's also expanding towards the bottom left-hand corner, which I don't think Reynor has scouted yet. No, he does not know about that one. Massive army of changelings moving forward too, and now we have a Zergling run by. Oh no. ShoWTimE taking a page out of Hero's book. uses the all-army hotkey maybe a little bit too liberally, and that makes it difficult for him to clean this up, because again, he's maxed out. He can't actually warp in units. So we just have to send whatever we have in this direction, and that's gonna cause the loss of this base, I think. Yep. These units needed to be present in the bottom left-hand corner of the map to prevent this nexus from going down. And that nexus is gonna go down, all because there's no unit on hold position, and there still is no unit on hold position. Either way, the fight continues. A good abduction here once again, but no corruptors available for a follow-up. We have 3 of them somewhere, but not close by. Oh, okay. Brute Lords forcing a lot of these ground units, though, to back off, despite the fact that there's not enough air-to-air damage available right here for Reynor. That squad of units that was in charge of cleaning up the base, well, they now find themselves caught off guard against a very expensive set of Zerg units, and they do get at least a few kills before they fall, but that was a very favorable trade for Reynor. We're gonna go for the Gravitic Drive. The speed upgrade right there for the Observer and the Prism. This is kind of like the building armor. But then for Protoss players. High-sec auto-tracking and building armor right here. This is the set of upgrades you make when you're rich. ShoWTimE not particularly rich, though, in this game. But he's got a decent amount of cash, and obviously Observer speed and Prism speed, very handy. Not the most expensive upgrades in the game, either. Plus, very soon, he will find himself in the possession of more resources, as now he's fully done upgrading. This is the +3 shields research. He's already finished everything else because of the double cyber core. Pushes forward right over here towards the left side of the map. Reynor taking one of the bases that some people would consider to be the Protoss' base. Zergling counterattack is gonna get deflected. It activates the barrier too because the Immortals walked into the storm. Okay. Base in the far bottom left will get spotted once again. Static defense coming up. That is the entire mineral bank here of ShoWTimE being dumped into shield batteries and photon cannons. Not again, not again, not again, not again. It does happen again. And now suddenly, yep, that opens up the opportunity here for this army to move forward towards that right side base. Protoss, though, doing the same thing right now. He's thinking this might be an opportunity to go after your natural as well. There are, however, a lot of Brute Lords and a lot of, what are they called, infestors set up in this section of the map. Good set of fungal growths, slowing the advancement here of the Protoss squad. But not a bad engagement there for ShoWTimE in the end. Ultras are destroying everything. Looks like the Lings in the main base were cleaned out, but these units really need to get back on their jobs. Okay, those Tempests, though. There's not that many of them, but enough to, at least against low HP brutes, to one-shot a whole bunch of them. Counterattack continues here on the right side of the map. Stalkers should be able to push this back here eventually, especially now with those units in the main base out of their lunch break. Okay. 9 probes have fallen. Oh, big fungal growth here on the right side of the map right now allows those Ultras to close the distance. That being said, there's so many heavy hitters right here for the Protoss, so those Ultras and Lings just don't achieve that much. Corruptors also falling. I think those Corruptors should probably be on the left side of the map instead. ShoWTimE still finding himself with a maxed out army versus Reynor, who does still have some cash in the bank, decides to remax on a whole lot of Corruptors, or at least he's making many of them, not quite maxed out. Could still add on about 30 supply worth of units. ShoWTimE goes into the main base. He's looking for the soft underbelly of the Zerg. He's already killed a bunch of tech. Ultralisk Cavern apparently has stayed alive for now. I think going after the Spire could be massive. Reynor, by the way, only had +3/+1 for his flying units, so not quite maxed out in that regard. Okay. Oh, big storm over here. Is there enough for the Protoss to actually clean all of this up? I don't think so. Brute Lords, yeah. They're being picked off one at a time, but so are the Tempests. The Tempests will end up going down, and as soon as the Tempests are gone, I think the Brutes should be able to clean up the Immortals as well as the Archon. The Immortals, though, they're being sent into the main base once again. Okay, they're gonna come together. They will be recalled. In the meantime, ShoWTimE pushing on the right side of the map as well, remaxing as quickly as possible. Reynor trying to take one of the bases right there that we already had a look at a little while ago, although he had to cancel it and he had to rebuild it. The Zealot run by on the left side of the map will be cleaned up. New Nexus coming up here as well on the left. Okay, suddenly, the pace has been picked up. Not a lot of anti-ground available, though, here for Reynor. He's got a bunch of Ultras, he's got a few Brute Lords, but really nothing to write home about. Tempests are being chased down right now by the Corruptors, and they will end up snatching them out of the sky. But quite a few Corruptors had to give their life for that as well. Zergling run by in the main base once again. This is really starting to get frustrating. Third time that we have Lings running into the natural expansion in the main base, when one unit on hold position with a shield battery behind it would just prevent pretty much all of it. Zerglings decide to burrow though. Tempest does not find his targets anymore, but this army here from ShoWTimE looks nearly unstoppable. Big fungal growth is going to make it difficult for the units to escape, but there's barely a follow-up. Only 3 Brute Lords up in the air. The Ultras really can't escape. Another Brute Lord will be coming up as well, but, well, the brothers that he was supposed to join, they get sniped out of the sky. And ultimately, it's ShoWTimE who obtains the victory, 2-1 over Reynor, in a beautiful series of Protoss versus Zerg.